Welcome to the new era of video creation with Bayozi. This is our new series on teaching deep learning. Today we will discuss the convolutional neural networks. Here are the contents. Convolutional neural networks, CNNs, are a specialized type of neural network designed for processing grid-like data, such as images. CNNs have revolutionized the field of computer vision due to their ability to automatically learn spatial hierarchies of features from raw pixel data, eliminating the need for manual feature extraction. CNNs are inspired by the human visual system, where neurons in the brain respond to stimuli in localized regions of the visual field. In a CNN, each neuron is connected to a small region of the input, allowing the network to focus on local patterns such as edges, textures, or shapes, which are crucial for visual understanding. Over the course of this lecture, we will explore the key components of CNNs, such as convolutional layers, pooling layers, and fully connected layers, and understand how these work together to process and classify images effectively. The core idea behind CNNs lies in how they use local receptive fields and local connections to learn spatial patterns. In contrast to fully connected networks, where each neuron is connected to every neuron in the previous layer, CNNs connect each neuron to only a small region of the input image. This small region is called the receptive field, and it allows the network to learn local features such as edges and textures. The convolution operation, which is central to CNNs, applies a filter, or kernel, to this receptive field to detect specific patterns in the image. The filter slides over the entire image, performing this operation at each position. By using shared weights, where the same filter is applied across the entire image, CNNs reduce the number of parameters, making the network more efficient and easier to train. CNNs are also hierarchical, meaning that earlier layers learn simple patterns like edges, and deeper layers combine these simple patterns to detect more complex structures like shapes, objects, or scenes. This hierarchical learning is crucial for the success of CNNs in complex visual tasks. The convolutional layer is the heart of CNNs. It applies a set of filters, or kernels, to the input image to extract relevant features. These filters are small matrices, typically of size 3x3, 5x5, or 7x7, that slide across the input image in a process called convolution. At each location, the filter performs a dot product between its values and the corresponding pixels of the image, producing a single value in the output. Each filter is designed to detect a specific feature, such as an edge, corner, or texture. During the training process, the network learns the optimal values for these filters by minimizing the loss function. As the filter slides over the image, it produces a feature map, which is essentially a new image that highlights the presence of the detected feature at each location. Multiple filters can be used in a single convolutional layer, with each filter detecting different features. The depth of the output feature map corresponds to the number of filters used. The result is a rich set of features that represent different aspects of the image, such as shapes, textures, and objects. Activation functions are crucial in CNNs because they introduce non-linearity into the model, allowing it to learn complex patterns. Without non-linearity, CNNs would only be able to learn linear relationships, which are insufficient for tasks like image classification, where the relationships between features are highly non-linear. The most commonly used activation function in CNNs is the rectified linear unit, ReLU. ReLU simply outputs the input value if it is positive and zero otherwise. This simple operation has become a standard in CNNs due to its efficiency in both computation and training. ReLU helps CNNs learn more complex patterns by ensuring that the network does not suffer from the vanishing gradient problem, which occurs when gradients become too small during backpropagation, making learning difficult. Other activation functions like sigmoid or tan have been used in the past, but ReLU has largely replaced them because it allows for faster convergence and better performance in deep networks. Pooling layers are an essential part of CNNs because they reduce the spatial dimensions of the feature maps, making the network computationally efficient. The pooling operation involves sliding a small window over the feature map and selecting a summary statistic from the values inside the window. The most common form of pooling is max pooling, where the maximum value in the window is selected. The primary goal of pooling is to reduce the size of the feature map, which helps decrease the computational cost and the number of parameters in the network. It also introduces a form of translation invariance, meaning that small shifts or distortions in the input image won't significantly affect the network's performance. Pooling layers also help prevent overfitting by forcing the network to focus on the most important features in the image, rather than memorizing specific locations of features. In practice, max pooling with a 2x2 window and a stride of 2 is commonly used to downsample feature maps. After the convolutional and pooling layers have extracted hierarchical features, fully connected, FC layers are used to make high-level decisions based on these features. In fully connected layers, each neuron is connected to every neuron in the previous layer, which means they use the entire set of features learned in the earlier layers to make predictions or classifications. Fully connected layers typically come at the end of the CNN architecture, and their purpose is to map the learned features to the output space. For example, in a classification task, the fully connected layer outputs a vector where each element corresponds to the probability of a certain class, while convolutional and pooling layers focus on extracting and downsampling features. Fully connected layers combine those features to make decisions about the image based on the patterns learned during training. Over the years, several CNN architectures have been proposed, each with its innovations that have pushed the boundaries of computer vision tasks. One of the earliest successful CNN architectures is LeNet 5, developed by Yann LeCun in the 1990s for handwritten digit recognition. LeNet 5 had relatively few layers and was foundational in proving the effectiveness of CNNs in image recognition. AlexNet, introduced in 2012, marked a breakthrough in deep learning. It significantly outperformed previous methods in the ImageNet competition, partly due to the use of deeper networks and the ReLU activation function, as well as GPU acceleration for faster training. VGGNet, introduced by the Visual Geometry Group in Oxford, is known for its simple and consistent architecture that uses small 3x3 convolutional filters in a very deep network. Although it is computationally expensive, it set the stage for deeper networks in computer vision. ResNet, which introduced residual connections, addressed the issue of vanishing gradients in very deep networks. These connections allow gradients to flow more easily during backpropagation, enabling much deeper networks to be trained effectively. Training CNNs is done using backpropagation, a process that adjusts the weights of the network by propagating errors backward through the layers. The optimization of the network is typically performed using stochastic gradient descent, SGD, which adjusts the weights in the direction of the negative gradient of the loss function. To prevent overfitting, regularization techniques like dropout and weight decay are employed. Dropout randomly disables neurons during training, forcing the network to generalize better rather than rely on specific neurons. Weight decay adds a penalty term to the loss function, which discourages excessively large weights and helps improve the generalization of the network. Batch normalization is another important technique that normalizes the inputs to each layer, speeding up training and improving model stability. By reducing internal covariate shift, batch normalization allows for faster convergence and helps avoid issues like exploding or vanishing gradients. While CNNs have revolutionized computer vision, they come with certain challenges and limitations. One of the main issues is the need for large amounts of labeled data. Training a CNN from scratch on a small dataset is often impractical and leads to poor generalization. To mitigate this, transfer learning and data augmentation are commonly used to boost model performance. Additionally, CNNs are computationally expensive, requiring powerful hardware like GPUs for efficient training. The larger the model and dataset, the more resources are needed. This makes training state-of-the-art CNNs costly in terms of both time and energy. Overfitting is another concern, especially in very deep networks. If the model is too complex relative to the available data, it can memorize the training data rather than learning generalizable features. Regularization methods like dropout and weight decay are used to prevent this issue. Finally, CNNs can be vulnerable to noise and adversarial attacks. Small, imperceptible changes to the input image can trick the model into making incorrect predictions, a problem that requires ongoing research in model robustness. The future of CNNs lies in improving their efficiency and scalability, particularly for real-time applications in areas like autonomous driving and medical imaging. New architectures and techniques are being developed to reduce computational costs while maintaining or improving performance. There is also growing interest in combining CNNs with other types of deep learning models, such as recurrent neural networks, RNNs, to handle sequential data like video or time series data. This combination can make CNNs more versatile and capable of handling a broader range of tasks. Another exciting direction for CNNs is unsupervised and semi-supervised learning, where models can learn from unlabeled or partially labeled data. This would reduce the dependency on large amounts of labeled data, which is often a bottleneck in training CNNs. The ongoing research in these areas is likely to lead to more powerful, efficient, and adaptable CNN models, capable of tackling even more complex tasks across various domains. Data augmentation is a powerful technique used in CNNs to artificially expand the training dataset. By applying random transformations to the input images, such as rotations, flips, scaling, and cropping, we create new, varied versions of the same image. This helps the network become more robust to different orientations, scales, and distortions of objects in images. Data augmentation is particularly useful in scenarios where the available labeled data is limited. It prevents overfitting by exposing the network to a wider variety of images, making it generalize better to unseen data. By artificially increasing the size and diversity of the training set, data augmentation helps CNNs become more invariant to transformations in the input data. CNNs are widely used in object detection tasks, which involve both classifying objects within an image and localizing them with bounding boxes. Object detection networks must handle two important tasks simultaneously, which requires specialized architectures. Region-based CNNs, RCNNs, work by first generating region proposals using selective search, and then classifying each region using a CNN. While effective, RCNNs are computationally expensive because they require running the CNN multiple times, once for each region. You only look. Once, YOLO, is a more efficient approach to object detection that performs both classification and localization in a single pass through the network. YOLO divides the image into a grid and predicts bounding boxes and class probabilities for each grid cell. YOLO is known for its speed and real-time object detection capabilities. Semantic segmentation is the task of classifying each pixel in an image rather than just classifying the image as a whole. This fine-grained classification is crucial in tasks like medical imaging, autonomous driving, and scene understanding. Fully convolutional networks, FCNs, are an important architecture for semantic segmentation. They replace the fully connected layers of traditional CNNs with convolutional layers, allowing the network to output a segmentation map that has the same spatial dimensions as the input image. FCNs are highly effective at segmenting images into regions that correspond to different classes. UNet, another popular architecture, was specifically designed for medical image segmentation. It uses an encoder-decoder structure with skip connections, allowing the network to retain high-resolution features from the input image and produce accurate segmentation maps. Transfer learning is a powerful technique for applying pre-trained CNNs to new tasks. Instead of training a network from scratch, which can be computationally expensive and time-consuming, we can use a model that has already been trained on a large dataset like ImageNet. This model has learned useful features, which can be fine-tuned for a new related task. Fine-tuning involves modifying the pre-trained model by adjusting its weights for the new task. This process typically involves unfreezing the later layers of the model and retraining them on the new dataset, while keeping the earlier layers frozen. Fine-tuning allows the model to retain general features learned from the large dataset and specialize on the new task. Evaluating the performance of CNNs is crucial to understand how well the model is generalizing to new, unseen data. Common metrics for classification tasks include accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. Accuracy measures the proportion of correct predictions, while precision and recall evaluate the model's performance on positive class predictions. The F1 score is the harmonic mean of precision and recall and is especially useful when the data is imbalanced. Additionally, a confusion matrix is a valuable tool for visualizing how the model performs on different classes, showing the number of true positives, true negatives, and false negatives. Cross-validation is another important technique for evaluating CNNs. By splitting the data into multiple folds and training the model on different subsets, we can get a better estimate of how the model will perform on new data.